You know why this nerf is happening? Because every single time I was like, hey guys, we should probably use this weapon. Ooh, what about this weapon? And the reply I always got was, Cross, why would I use that when I have Osteo Striga? Well, fellas, Osteo is getting nerfed. Now, to some, I know this seems like a no-brainer. You're telling me the exotic SMG from the Witch Queen, our first craftable, quote-unquote craftable exotic with hella high range, tracking, area of effect, explosions, and damage over time? And when you say it like that, it seems obvious something has to give. But how bad is Osteo really going to be? Given to us in the Developer Insight blog, outlining changes coming to weapons in Season 23. Quote, Osteo Striga has been, quite frankly, far too powerful for the ease of use it provides when it comes to ad clear and PvE. It has more range than most other SMGs, it does not require kills, and does not rely heavily on precision aim to activate one of the strongest AoEs we have ever had in Destiny. In addition, the lingering poison damage has benefited from the damage scaler that SMGs get in PvE content, which was intended to buff SMG's direct impact damage. This scaler, which is one of the highest scalers of any weapon type in the game, is pushing the poison damage to such an extreme level that it's been difficult for any other weapon to compete in the ad clear role. While it is likely that this change will not move the needle on Osteo Striga by a substantial amount, it will at least be slightly less of an outlier compared to other ad clear weapons. To preempt the argument, buffing other weapons up to the same level would not power creep to an extreme degree and would be very unhealthy for the game as a whole. So it's not something we are going to explore. So Bungie is removing the SMG bonus scaling that was affecting the poison damage. This will bring Osteo Striga's poison down to match standard necrotic grip poison. Though as an exotic, it will still deal 40% bonus damage against minors. So yeah, I know we just came in really hot today, but we need to take stock on just how limited the scope of this adjustment really is. Bungie clearly acknowledges that Osteo has best-in-class range, extremely forgiving aim, and a no-kill trigger for his exotic perk. But keep in mind, none of those things are getting touched. Instead, though, they're removing the SMG damage bonus scaler. They give us an example by saying it will match standard necrotic grip poison. Now, before we get into the crunchy numbers, it's really important to note, Osteo Striga is still going to feel and work the same. Bungie doesn't even think it's going to be a big nerf. They're aiming to make it less of an outlier, which sounds, at least on paper, okay. Now, the only change to Osteo being announced here is to its poison damage. And there are two ways to apply this damage. Land 7 precision shots on an enemy, or you kill them. Either action creates a pulse of green poison damage that afflicts any target within its roughly 5-meter radius. And this is where the nerf will become apparent. Now, once a target is poisoned, they'll take damage around twice a second for about 10 seconds. And the timing on this isn't exact, and it fluctuates just slightly in our own testing, but it always hovers around this pace and duration, applying 18 to 19 ticks of damage for the duration of the effect. Now, the amount of damage each tick does is higher than the last, compounding by a consistent amount. Not a percent, but a flat damage value. So here at Carl, 19 poison ticks begin with 3,112 damage and repeat about every half a second, increasing by 351 damage each time. That is, until tick 14, where damage suddenly quadruples. The last few ticks against Carl increase by 1,411 damage each time. And this leaves us with a grand total of 135,089 damage dealt by Osteo's poison effect alone. Now, according to Bungie, Necrotic's grip poison damage is the target they want Osteo's poison performance to match. The effect is almost identical between the two, except that Necrotic applies these effects upon melee hits. So slapping a Cabal right next to Carl, you see our poison starts at 2,019 damage and then increases by 208 damage per tick. Now, interestingly enough, it also quadruples after tick 14, at which point it increases by around 838 damage per tick. After 18 ticks, the total damage of our poison with Necrotic grips is 77,122 damage. The question is, what's the difference? First, it's worth noting that our Osteo sample here did 19 ticks, while Necrotic did 18. Now, when examining total poison damage, Osteo dealt an extra 57,967 damage over Necrotic, which is a 75% increase. Now, to break things down further, and ignoring the poison damage ramp between ticks 13 and 15, the ratio between both base and quadruple poison damage, 209 and 838 for Necrotic, 351 and 1,411 for Osteo, is 1.68. It seems that this 1.68 1.68 is the SMG damage scaler that Bungie calls one of the highest in the game. At the end of the day, if Bungie delivers on their promise and simply removes this scaler, Osteo's base total damage bonus will see roughly a 43% reduction, dealing around 77,000 damage to Carl instead of 135,000. Now, to most weapons in the game, this would be catastrophic. So why is Bungie downplaying how serious this nerf will be? I'm gonna give you 3 reasons why we kind of see where they're coming from in their assessment. First, the poison damage is being reduced. Everything else about the gun will remain the same. Base damage, its perks, you name it. Half of the reason Osteo Striga is such a ubiquitous weapon is because it's so cheap and easy to use. Witch Queen owners get access to the gun after clearing the campaign, so it's widely accessible. It also has unlimited ammo, and triggering poison damage itself only takes a few crits that practically aims for itself. It won't single-handedly clean house as easily, and you're definitely going to see this scale back in things like Grandmaster Nightfalls, but what Osteo presents is the ability to just blindly blow die load into a room of enemies and watch them slowly disintegrate, and you could do this safely, much safer in comparison to other SMGs. That's because the tracking of Osteo still intermittently applies past its roughly 26 meter damage falloff start, and the poison damage isn't affected by falloff. Finally, its catalyst keeps reloading the gun on poison kills. Do you see this magazine size? You can get a magazine well over 100 shots, up from a base mag of 28. Yes, the poison damage is getting weaker, but everything else about Osteo is still incredibly strong. Now, secondly, necrotic grips. While Osteo's poison trigger only pulses once, the synergy with necrotic is famous among warlocks, making this already easy to use gun even more brain dead in the best possible way. If you're rocking both of these exotics, every time Osteo's poison kills a target, they will explode all over again, creating that chain effect. This interaction is a fundamental reason why Osteo is so strong, and it's not going away. The poison damage reduction means that a single poison pulse is less likely to clear a whole room, but with necrotic grips, turning that pulse into a chain reaction, this is still going to be a very deadly combination. And third, there are plenty of damage bonuses to soften the blow. Testing the kinetic weapon surge mods revealed that the poison damage is buffed by these kind of modifiers. This implies that the activity surges and overcharges will continue to affect the weapon and its poison, allowing us to spec into poison damage with ease. The 22% from weapon surges, if you're rocking 3 of them, and the 25% from an ability overcharge combined won't totally make up for that damage loss, but without much effort, we can almost get back to its current damage value now. Now, I'm not going to understate this. You're still going to feel the nerf. You're going to see it. For my dedicated Osteo users that use this weapon religiously, you are definitely going to notice this. But keep in mind that Osteo's poison damage should retain that 40% exotic weapon damage bonus against red bar enemies, setting its ad clearing damage far above what you can achieve from necrotic grips at base and even further with other buffs in play. So although, yes, this nerf does look bad, I think Osteo Striga is nasty enough to stay top tier. And if anything, this is definitely going to push people to use necrotic grips more with Osteo. Not that I feel like many of you probably weren't, but this is going to be a synergy that you're definitely going to want to take advantage of after this change for a variety of reasons. Most notably because it's a lot of fun. I'm not even a warlock main. Now, even though, yes, this does open up a lot of other exotics to finally start using, I really feel like the reason why this nerf is happening is to make way for Thorn. Thorn is getting that exotic catalyst finally. And even though everything about Thorn's catalyst pretty much positions it to just benefit the most inside of PvP, keep in mind a Remnant will be able to overflow your magazine on Thorn up to 40 rounds max. Thorn Remnant also brings its poison damage up from 702 per tick against Carl all the way up to 2,106, but with only 4 ticks per shot. It still won't have the same area coverage or staying power as Osteo Striga does. We're going to be breaking Thorn down in more detail here very soon. Regardless though, guys, I think Osteo Striga is still going to be a good weapon. It is going to see a big nerf on the poison damage, which is really just going to push me to lean even heavier into its synergy with necrotic grips and other things. Let me know in the comments below what you think though. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.